Year 5. This video is to talk you through the poem which is on the e-learning website for week 2. It's called Early Last Sunday Morning. I have it on the screen. If you have your booklet at home, your Term 2 comprehension booklet, it's in the booklet. I'll also put it on Google Classroom site. So you're looking for week 2 literacy, lesson 5. Okay, right, the first thing I just want to point out is the poem is called Early Last Sunday Morning. In the UK, where this poem was written, Sunday is the weekend. So the poem is talking about a man and a boy going for a walk in the park at the weekend. Okay? Right, I'm going to read it once, then I'll go through each verse, explaining vocabulary and the main ideas. I'm going to be reading from my book here. Early last Sunday morning, Dad announced we needed a glass of fresh air and a mouthful of greenness. So we slipped off to the nearby park, where we crept in as soundless as snails. Around us, the day-breathed air was as sharp as vinegar, reminding us that winter was well on its way. Inside, we watched the trees stretch and wake, while the grass stood up and shivered. Soon, I was pointing towards a spider that was strung on a necklace web, while far behind it, the sun rolled out like a golden ball. Suddenly, Dad smiled as a squirrel scampered from a bush, then turned to grey stone, until, with a flick of its tail, it waved goodbye and was gone. Later, as we passed the children's playground, I looked at the lonely red slide and briefly remembered the summer days when I flew its slippery red tongue. But a tug of wind pushed me past until I just let the warmth of Dad's hand finally lead me on towards home. So, how many verses has that poem got? If you're watching at home as you are, you can answer that question now. Okay, it's got 4 verses. Has this poem got any rhyme in it? Has it got any rhyme pattern to it? No, your answer should have been no, it doesn't. Not all poems have to have rhyme. It's okay. Right, so let's go through each verse again and let's look at some of the vocabulary, or if there's any things that we find in poetry, similes, metaphors, things like that, we'll point them out. Okay, so early last Sunday morning, Dad announced. So announced means to say, to tell somebody something. Announced we needed a glass of fresh air and a mouthful of greenness. Okay, why do you think he says it like that? A glass of fresh air. Can you put fresh air in a glass? And a mouthful of greenness. Can you have a mouthful of greenness? I wouldn't recommend that you go and eat grass. So what does he mean? He's saying that we need to get out, okay? We want to go out, we want to get some fresh air, we want to see some trees and some grass. He's almost saying it as if it's like a medicine that we have to take. So Dad is saying, let's go for a walk. We need to get out. We need to get some fresh air. We need to get out of the house. So we slipped off to the nearby park. So slipped off just means we just went quietly. We just got our things and went. Where we crept in as soundless as snails. Okay, creep is when you move quietly, secretly. You don't want anybody to see you. As soundless as snails. That's a simile. Do you know what a snail looks like? I've got a picture here. Right, there's a snail. And if you've ever seen a snail moving, you know they move very slowly and they don't make a single noise. So the simile there, as soundless as snails, is just to give you the impression that we were moving so quietly you couldn't hear a thing. Go back to the poem. Okay, as soundless as snails. Around us, the day breathed air that was as sharp as vinegar. Okay, do you know what vinegar is? If you don't, I have a picture. Okay, so vinegar is a white liquid. We use it in cooking, sometimes use it in salads. Okay, if you've tasted it, it's a very kind of sharp, bitter, sour taste. So, if we say the air was as sharp as vinegar, what does that mean? Okay, it means the air was cold. It was that sort of cold. We do get cold like that in Egypt sometimes in the winter. So imagine that feeling when it takes your breath away slightly. Reminding us that winter was well on its way. So if something is well on its way, it's coming, it's close. So that means we're nearly in winter, we're in autumn, we're coming to the end of autumn, and it's almost winter. Okay, verse 2. Inside we watched the trees stretch and wake, while the grass stood up and shivered. Okay, so the poet has used something here called personification. Do you remember what that is? I'll give you a second to think about it. We did do it, I think, in term 1 or term 2. So personification is when we give something that's not human or not living, we give it a human, a living quality. Okay? So the trees obviously are living, but can trees stretch and wake up? No, they can't. The grass stood up and shivered. Shiver is when you're cold. Okay, can grass stand up on its own? Can grass shiver? No, it can't. So the poet there has given us the idea that the park is almost human. That as we're walking around, we see the trees and the grass doing these actions as if they were human. Okay, so that's personification. Soon I was pointing towards a spider that was strung on a necklace web. There is a picture of the web on the page there. While far behind it, the sun rolled out like a golden ball. Okay, so there's another simile. The sun rolled out like a golden ball. So imagine there's somebody in the park playing with this beautiful yellow, shiny gold ball. And that's what it's like. So the sun did come out. Right, looking at verse 3. Suddenly Death smiled as a squirrel scampered from a bush. Okay, there's a picture of a squirrel there. Scamper, try and imagine a small animal moving quickly. So something like a squirrel or a hamster, something like that, moving quickly. So the squirrel scampered from a bush. A bush is like a tree, a plant. Then turned to grey stone. So the squirrel has stopped moving. It's as if the squirrel is a statue. He's stone. Okay, he stopped moving. Maybe he wants to have a look around, see who's there. Until with a flick of its tail, it waved goodbye and was gone. So the squirrel's tail, the flick of the tail, it's like a quick movement, like sometimes girls do with their hair. Okay, a flick of his tail, it waved goodbye and was gone. So the squirrel doesn't wave goodbye with his hand like that. He flicks his tail, a flick is a quick movement, he turns around and off he runs. It's as if he's saying goodbye to us. So look at verse 4. Later, as we passed the children's playground, I looked at the lonely red slide and briefly remembered the summer days when I flew its slippery red tongue. Okay, so the playground, as it's almost winter, it's autumn, the days are short, it gets dark early, it's cold, it's wet. Not so many children go to the park. So the slide, as you can see in the picture there, the slide looks lonely. Imagine the school now. There's nobody in school now. The playground is lonely. The big toy is lonely. There's nobody here to play on it. Imagine the slide abandoned in the winter. And he briefly remembered the summer days. So briefly just means for a short time. So he has a quick flashback to what it's like in the summer. In the summer the park is full of children, it's noisy and there'll be laughter and everybody will be going on the slide. But today it's empty and it's quiet and everything looks a bit sad and lonely. And he says I flew its slippery red tongue. If you think about it, the slide does kind of look a bit like a tongue, doesn't it? But a tug of wind pushed me past. So a tug of wind is just like a strong bit of wind, a breeze, pushed him past, so kept him walking, until I just let the warmth in Dad's hand finally lead me on towards home. So he's holding his dad's hand, he's walking home. So the poet here, I think, he wants to show you the contrast. He wants to tell you what the park is like, the garden is like in the winter. It's cold, there are some animals there, the trees are there, the trees and the grass are shivering. But at the end, he does kind of bring us back and remind us that in the summer it's different. In the summer it's noisy and it's lively and there are other people there. So I think you have enough of the vocabulary, and I think I've gone over most of the points that you'll need to answer the questions. So there are questions which are on the website or in the booklet. They're on the next page after the booklet. Okay, so there are questions there. The understanding the text questions, they're fairly straightforward comprehension. You should just find the answer in the text. Looking at the language, okay, I'll just go through that quickly. Do you remember we said slipped off? We said that at the start. Well on its way. Turned to grey stone, the squirrel. What did the squirrel do? What did the squirrel look like? Announced. Scampered. Flick. Briefly. Tug. The tug of wind. Tug is to kind of pull. But here it might be like the wind is kind of pushing him, pulling him to move. Okay, so I think we've gone through the vocabulary. And then the other questions, exploring the poem. We did talk about the similes, so I think you'll be okay there. Think about the description, think about the way the poet has described the park, the way things move, what images he's trying to give you, and I think you should be able to answer those. And then when you've answered, if you go on the e-learning website, or if you go on Google Classroom, you will find the answers. The answers look like this, but I'm just going to put it quickly so you don't get any answers now. There you go. The answers are there, and you can check your answers. If you still have any questions, you can ask your teacher. You can send your teacher a message, or you could ask them next time you do a Zoom meeting. Okay, so I'll let you turn the video off now and start answering the question.